Our next guest has firsthand experience with the Russian oligarchy. Let's welcome Ben Mezrich, whose 2015 book, Once Upon a Time in Russia, The Rise of the Oligarchs, is a rare inside look at the lives of these billionaires who made their fortunes when the Soviet Union fell. His latest novel was just published as well. It's called The Midnight Ride, which is a historical thriller. And Ben, I had forgotten you wrote this book. You're so prolific. You've written so many things since. But I saw a thread that you put on Twitter the other day just talking about your time researching this book and writing it and the time you spent with the oligarchs. I mean, that is a rare thing to get that much time up close with these people.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I try to forget I wrote this book as well. I mean, it's a crazy story. I spent a year hanging out with oligarchs in bars and clubs and yachts and owners clubs of soccer teams. And what's going on right now is really wild to watch. The oligarchs put Putin in power, but Putin flipped it around on them. And I tell this story that's amazing. But they found Putin. He was a low-level KGB agent in St. Petersburg. They knew him because he'd helped set up a car dealership for one of them. They moved him to Moscow, put him in power over the country, thinking they could control him, and then he flipped it around on them and became the biggest oligarch of all. So we're at this moment where we're trying to get the oligarchs to retake the power they once had, but their relationship with Putin is not what people think.
Did the oligarchs realize this back in 2014 and 15 when you were meeting with them? Did they realize that they had lost control?
Yeah, because what happened was they placed Putin in power. And in the first week of power, Putin invited all of the oligarchs to Stalin's old home. And this is a place where there's bullet holes in the walls where they used to line people up. And Putin sat these men down at a table and he said, "You've all made tons of money. You're all billionaires. You can keep your money, but from here on out, you stay out of my way." And any oligarch who stayed out of his way is an oligarch today. Any oligarch who did not was found hanging in their bathroom or fell down an elevator shaft or fell out of a helicopter. So the oligarchs understood when I was meeting with them that Putin was, the leader, that they used to run the country, and now they were running around London with their yachts and their beautiful homes. So trying to force them to redo what it used to be, to go back to the 90s, is a really interesting situation. And we'll see what happens, I think.
You think they have the power to do something like that? Do they undo this unholy alliance that they themselves created?
2 weeks ago, I would have said absolutely not. From what I know about the oligarchs and what I know about the relationship with Putin is that Putin is a strong man. He is very popular in his country. He chased the oligarchs out of Russia, and at the time they were known for the corruption. They had been handed all of the resources by Yeltsin, who picked them because they were friends with his party-hopping daughter. So he handpicked all of these oligarchs and gave one of them the aluminum companies and one of them the oil companies. And so they were living very large. But as soon as Putin came in, everything shifted. So I would have said no, Putin has all the power. But in the last couple of weeks, we've seen something very different going on. I don't believe this is what Putin planned on. This was not a calculated situation that we're in right now. And so I think we're at a place that anything goes at this point.
You mean he's not in a calculated situation? He miscalculated on the idea that the Ukrainians would fight back so strongly.
Well, I think he miscalculated on the world. I think the world's support took him by surprise. I think he believed he would move in, there would be some yelling for a couple days, and then it would be business as usual. I don't think he believed he'd ever be in a situation where the entire world is now isolating Russia, attempting to go after all the yachts and all of the... I mean, it's an incredible move. We're chasing down yachts in the ocean. It's like a movie being played out in front of us. And I really don't think that this was the plan. But I also don't think saying Putin is this bully we stand up to is the correct way to look at it. Putin is a man who has a vision that he's had all along of resurrecting the Soviet empire. From the very beginning, he has said the biggest mistake of the last century was the fall of the Soviet empire. So it's not that he's this bully lashing out at the world. He's a person with a very defined vision. And as he gets closer to his end game, we have to understand that his goal is this giant empire, and we have to deal with that, not deal with an individual bully.
We have been hearing some of the comments. Robert was just talking about the comments from some of the oligarchs where they say, okay, we're going to sell this football club and the proceeds are going to go to help the Ukrainian people. You have others who have said, Russian companies and Russian oligarchs who have said, we're not in favor of this. We don't want to see a war and aggression in Ukraine. Are they saying this with cover from Putin? Are they really stepping aside and taking a break from Putin?
That's a great question. I think that they are stepping out. I do think that there is some maneuvering going on here. This is not something that I think you would have heard Roman Abramovich talk about 4 weeks ago. I think that they were very much Putin's cash register. He said something and they did it. And I think now you're hearing them getting nervous, and it might be showing some cracks in that power dynamic. It's hard to tell. But I do think that we're seeing something that I would have never expected a couple of weeks ago, some of these people speaking out, what seems to be against what Putin wants.